Most people believe their decisions are personal, that they choose freely, that their actions come from preference, values, or character. And in a narrow sense, that is true. But what most people never stop to examine is why certain choices feel available, while others never even enter their mind. Because control rarely looks like force. In modern systems, control is quieter than that. It works through incentives. Incentives do not shout. They do not threaten. They do not announce themselves as control. They simply adjust the environment until one option feels reasonable and all other options feel unrealistic. Over time, choice does not disappear. It becomes narrow. Think about how often you are told that you are free to choose. You are free to choose where you work, free to choose how you live, free to choose what you buy, free to choose who you become. And technically, that is correct. But freedom of choice is not the same as freedom of outcomes, because incentives shape outcomes. Long before a decision is ever made, an incentive is not a command. It is a signal. It tells you what will be rewarded, what will be tolerated, and what will quietly punish you, without anyone taking responsibility. And the most effective incentives do not feel like pressure at all. They feel like common sense. When incentives are designed well, people stop asking why they are choosing something. They begin to say things like, "This just makes sense. This is the realistic option. This is how the world works." That is not independence. That is adaptation. Consider work. Very few people wake up and say, "I want to sell my time in exchange for survival." Yet millions do exactly that. Not because they are forced, but because the incentive structure makes alternatives appear reckless, immature, or impossible. Entrepreneurship is risky. Stability is rewarded. Deviation is punished quietly. No one needs to tell you what to do. The system teaches you. This is why incentives are more powerful than rules. Rules create resistance. Incentives create compliance. Rules invite opposition. Incentives invite cooperation. And the best part? No one feels controlled. Incentives work at every level of life. Money, status, approval, security, belonging. Even morality is not immune. We like to believe our values are personal. But watch how quickly values shift. When incentives change, what is praised becomes right. What is punished becomes wrong. What is ignored slowly disappears. This does not require conspiracy. It requires design. Most systems do not need malicious intent to produce predictable behavior. They only need incentives that reward compliance and penalize deviation. Over time, people adjust themselves, not consciously, automatically. The most dangerous incentives are the ones that feel invisible. When punishment is delayed, when rewards are social, not financial, when consequences are framed as personal failure rather than structural design. At that point, control becomes internal. People police themselves, and once control is internalized, it no longer needs enforcement. You do not need guards when people are afraid to step out of line on their own. You do not need threats when people have learned what not to want. That is the quiet success of incentives. This is why modern control systems do not look oppressive. They look comfortable. They look reasonable. They look voluntary. And that is precisely why they work. The goal of incentives is not obedience. It is predictability. A predictable population is easier to manage, easier to market to, easier to govern, and easier to replace. Unpredictability is expensive, so systems discourage it without ever banning it. When you understand incentives, you start to see why certain paths are crowded while others remain empty, why some ideas are celebrated while others quietly disappear, why freedom exists in theory but feels limited in practice. This does not mean you are powerless, but it does mean that awareness must come before choice. You cannot choose freely inside a system you do not see. And most people never see the system because it never announces itself. It simply rewards them for not noticing. In the next episode, we will examine how incentives shape behavior, even when people believe they are resisting control. Because the most effective control is not imposed, it is accepted quietly. If this perspective felt unfamiliar, it's because most systems are designed not to be noticed. This channel exists to make those systems visible, not to tell you what to think, but to help you see what usually stays hidden.